Welcome everybody to the Orange County IDA meeting for February 19th, 2025. The time is still 5:13 and I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome all our guests here tonight. We appreciate you being here. We have plenty of business to consider. Roll call please, Bill.
Jeffrey Christ.
Aye.
Dean Tamburri.
Here.
Susan Walsky.
Here.
Linda Muller.
Here.
Mark Green.
Here.
And Dr. Vincent Odock.
Here.
6 of our 7 members are present. For staff, myself, Bill Fioravanti, Marty Barras, and Kelly Riley. We have a number of special guests, our New York State Monitor, Mr. Brian Sandvich. We have, of course, our General Counsel, Lino Sciaretta. We have our former counsel, Susan Katzoff, on to handle one of our items. We also, again, our guests, we have the esteemed County Executive, Mr. Stephen Newhouse. We have Mayor Joe DiStefano from the City of Middletown. We have the City of Middletown Public Works, Chairman, Commissioner for Public Works, Jacob Twill. We have our County Attorney, Mr. Rick Goldman. We have Michael Torelli from the County Executive's Office, the Supervisor of the Town of Goshen, Mr. Joe Betro, and Billy Iverson handling audiovisual, and 2 consultants from CDM Smith, Mr. Keith Kelly and Dan O'Rourke, who's joining us online. And we have Mr. Bart Lansky, who is attorney for one of our projects, and we also have, they couldn't fit in the room, but one of our applicants, Mr. Keith Perez and Ian Potter, representing the Sonata Group. They'll be in shortly. That's everyone. Excellent.
We do have proof of notice. It's in our packet. Moving on to the minutes from January 15th, 2025. If anyone has a question, comments. And I actually have one on page 2 under the chairman's appointment. It says OCFC, that should be Orange County IDA. Any other corrections or comments here? Motion to approve with the noted correction.
I'll make that motion with correction as stated.
Thank you, Susan. Second to that motion?
Aye.
Dr. Odock, thank you. Other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
Abstain.
And Mark was absent. He abstains on the minutes vote.
And Mr. Chairman, Council and I were just talking about moving the report section to below after the important new business, just for time.
Yes.
Something you consider?
I like that. I would like to just briefly do my report. It'll take about 30 seconds,
Sure.
and it's involves a lot of stuff going on outside of Orange County. The economic blueprint is a process that's been going on for a few months, and Bill, you and I just got our individual surveys. I don't know how extensive those surveys are that go out. And an important meeting Bill and I attended just last week was a New York State Economic Development Conference in Albany. A lot of neat stuff going on there. One thing I learned was the new New York State wetlands rules with DEC are increased significantly with a 100-foot buffer around every federal wetland. It was noted that will consume 1 million acres in New York that becomes undevelopable under most circumstances. And it impacts a number of approvals for residential and commercial that if they don't get built in the next 2 to 3 years, they may have to get reapprovals under the new rules. So I think that's a big impact. And lastly, very excitingly, the Fast New York application the IDA had into New York State was approved for the Roseton Power Plant project, and that's a neat chance to help shovel ready and make best uses of that site. So I just present those quickly because I'm glad to have everybody hear those comments. So Bill, I think you're suggesting we go right to new business with 2 girls.
Or to old business if we could. I
Oh,
think
okay.
we'll cover the UTEP, allow us to get that,
Right,
if
yes.
that's okay.
UTEP tax exemption policy, Sue Katzoff and Bill.
Yeah, and I'll start it off, just to recap. We're not gonna rehash it. It's the UTEP, the project approval policy, and the recapture policy are all in your packets. You've seen them for a couple of months. The last change was some typographical changes, mostly nothing substantive. They came from Lino's partner, Rudy Zotto. We did incorporate those. You all saw them. We did have a public hearing on January 28th. I will say that no one attended, and we've received no written comment. We've kept the public hearing open until tonight, which we'll ask the chairman to close, but we still received no comment. I will add that I did present to most of the superintendents in the county, thanks to Orange Ulster Bosse's giving me that forum, and I presented the week prior to their business officers from the school district. I imagine that stems some of the questions and comments, but otherwise we received no comments during the hearing or since. Secondly, the governance committee has reviewed the policies in full and in detail, and they okayed it, recommending a full approval by the board. And I'll also mention that our monitor, Anchin, has also reviewed it and had no issues with the UTIP. They had it in plenty of time. There was specific in the law that enabled the monitor to be about. UTEP is something that was specifically mentioned where they had to have it well in advance, and they did, and we communicated. So it's all ready. Sue, if there's anything you want to add?
Not really, other than before you can take action on it, you will need to close the public hearing. But I think Bill set out, what has transpired to bring us to this point. And I'm glad to have had the opportunity to work with you on this, and I think it will carry you forward well as you analyze new projects that come before the board.
Sue, do we need a motion in a second to close the public hearing? We do, right?
Yeah. Well, no, not usually. You don't do that when you're hosting them off-site.
But we do tonight.
Okay.
Well, that's the question. We need to close the public
You left it
hearing.
open, you
Yeah.
didn't close it, so you gotta
Yeah.
close it, yes.
You-
Because you left it open for written comment as well,
Yeah.
so you gotta close that.
Would anyone care to
I'll make a
make a motion to close the public hearing for the UTEP project approval and recapture policies? Second by Mark. The public hearing is now closed. I would like to, as we move to adopt those policies, thank Sue for her work with the UTEP over about the last year, pretty close to it, related to specifically that, and thank you for joining us tonight, Sue. Unless there's other discussion, I would ask for a motion to adopt those three policies.
I'm gonna make that motion, it's a long time
Susan?
coming.
Yes, thank you. Second to that motion. Mark, thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. And just for the record, we have 6 ayes, no nays, and 1 absence.
And one hallelujah.
Yeah, there
More
you
than
go,
one.
Mark, thank you.
Several, yes.
So we're gonna move on to the introduction of a new project. The application is in the possession of the board. Kelly, I believe it's on our website
Yes.
for 2 Girls, 1 Boy LLC. It's a hotel project in Cornwall. We're just inviting in the applicant to join us here in the meeting. I teed it up, Bill, so introduce the applicant if you would,
Come on in
please.
if you will. We have Mr. Keith Perez and Ann Potter from the Sonata Group, and again, their counsel is online with us. Bart Lansky, thanks for joining us, folks. Sorry for
Welcome.
the tight- If you wouldn't mind just kind of standing over here somewhere, and it's,
You can sit, somebody can sit here.
There's seats over here also.
yeah, that's what
Bill,
I'm sorry.
so we have chairs.
Yeah, put them in front, I got a camera.
Yeah, we do have to make sure.
Yeah, they gotta be here, because the camera.
If they stand right to the left of the
Yeah.
TV, can they be seen?
Yeah, as long as they're in that.
I'd ask you both to stand, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. Right here,
Apologies.
right against the wall that way, right there, perfect, that's great. So, this is a project for a boutique hotel in downtown Cornwall. I'm still confused if it's the town or the village. It's a little tough right there. It's right on the line.
Yeah.
It's a $12 million total project. It will create 35 full-time jobs. They are only asking for a sales tax exemption and mortgage recording tax exemption. Just want to be clear, there's no pilot requested. SDE of approximately $465,000. Mortgage recording tax exemption of roughly $75,000. And I'll really allow you to fill us in on anything else you want to share about the project. Would it be yourself or Mr. Lansky?
Well, so good evening. Sorry I'm not there in person. I heard the weather's beautiful.
It sure is.
So obviously it is a boutique hotel. This location was a Burner Creek Dock dealership, and then before that, it was a gas station starting in the 1930s. So it's a brownfield location, which is something in your matrix for approval. Obviously, it's tourism, and there's a deficit of higher-end hotels in the area. And so we have done a feasibility analysis, and this is a transformative project. We're taking the worst piece of property in town in terms of ratables and condition and turning it into the best. We have something which has an assessment of $300-some odd thousand, and we're expecting it to go over $8 million. So it should have a big impact. As was stated, we're expecting 35 full-time employment jobs, and it's a great project. And so we are hoping to answer questions. We're hoping that the board votes for a public hearing, and we'd like to be approved and benefit the county and ourselves.
Thank you very much. Questions from the board?
I'm just trying to visualize where this is according to Google Maps. It's over by Fiddlesticks Cafe?
Right next to
Right
it.
next to it.
Okay, okay, and the height, 5 stories?
Yes.
5 stories.
And Cornwall approved that already, the planning board?
We're within 55 feet is the zoning, and we're within 55 feet.
Okay,
So there was no variance requested or needed for height.
okay, just following through on that, because that is a big building for that area of Cornwall.
We do have a sketch or a rendering in the application of the project.
How many rooms?
52.
52?
I had a question, what's the timing to build?
I'd like to start in spring.
We've already received conditional site plan approval. We're expected to have final site plan approval in the March meeting, and depending on a couple of other applications that we have, we'd like to start this spring. So we received an EDC grant. We are also in the hopper for Restore New York, and we are in the Brownfield program. We have an application for the Brownfield program. So depending on the timing of those two things, we are tentatively suggesting a May start.
Very good.
And an end date goal?
June 26th. June 26th.
June of 26?
I didn't hear the question.
Ending.
18 months later.
Okay.
18 months later. With training and everything.
And your application states that you have all the funding necessary to complete the project?
Yes.
I didn't hear.
Can I ask
Yeah,
for,
we're comfortable with our funding.
Yeah.
Obviously, this sales tax exemption and mortgage recording tax is an important part of our formula, but we're comfortable with the funding.
can I ask where you are on lending for the project, where that stands? On
We have
financing?
a commitment letter from a local bank, and we have obviously equity in the project, and we have, as I said, the 1 grant awarded. So we're in good shape. Obviously, we are watching budgets and interest rates and tariffs and things like that, but as of right now, everything's fine.
So just to follow up on that, from your application, it says that you're gonna receive $9,564,000 in financing, and you've listed Tompkins Bank as the one who's gonna be
Yes.
providing the mortgage. They're providing the entire mortgage? Is that your
Yeah, well,
commitment letter?
there's 2 facilities under that mortgage. So initially, they're providing the entire mortgage, but there's gonna be an SBA component.
Doc Odoc, you had a question?
Yes, I was wondering, you did mention the jobs that may be created at the lower paid jobs. I mean, any idea of the wages? What type of
So
candidates? Yes.
our analysis from our management consultant suggests that there's 35 full-time equivalents. A lot of those jobs are in the restaurant. There is a hotel manager job. And I don't know how familiar you are with the marketplace, but it is a fairly tight marketplace, and the management jobs are higher paid, and the maintenance are within normal ranges. We don't have exact salary numbers, and we won't really know until 2 weeks before opening what the market is going to suggest.
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir. Were you done? Yeah? What other hotels have you built anywhere within a couple hundred miles?
This is his first hotel.
First one,
First one.
okay?
Mr. Perez owns a local contracting firm, successful firm, and this is kind of a foray into this for him.
Okay, how local? Where are you?
Newburgh.
Newburgh? So if you are local, that's my next question, as far as building, employees, things like that, are you,
Very familiar.
you're looking for local labor?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
again,
and-
if you're out of Newburgh, then I'm gonna assume that, that's a good thing.
It is. It
Okay.
is. We actually just moved to Newburgh from Cornwall, but originally from Newburgh.
Okay, all right.
That's why we seen the property, I always liked the building, it was starting to go in disrepair, they lost it. And, we just bought a property down the street, and, she didn't want me to get it. What are you doing? And, it worked out.
We were both residents of Cornwall for a while. We just don't currently, I'm not
It's a
resident.
nice fit there. Okay.
Well, we're asking you a lot of questions because, we wanna make sure that this is
We're
set
not
up to
running the
succeed.
hotel. We've hired a hospitality
We have
group.
a hospitality group.
Yeah.
To run it.
We are under contract with Hilton.
And with Hilton.
It's gonna be a tapestry.
All right. I mean, look, this is a pet project. I believe we need more hotels in the area, so.
That's what the feasibility study said.
I'm thrilled that you're taking this on. We just want to make sure that you've thought of everything that could possibly happen, so. And selfishly, we want to make sure.
3 years we've been
The
doing
labor
it.
policy, and we don't have any problem with it.
Is this, this is boutique, but is there going to be steel in this building?
I'm sorry?
Steel?
The
Is there-
first floor is steel and concrete.
Okay,
And then stick built from there.
all right. And again, local is what you're looking to,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's come up yet, but they purchased a former garage, an auto garage there, so serious remediation, there are a couple of spills that you guys already cleaned up.
Yeah, we
So
closed two.
It was a somewhat dirty site that's obviously gonna be.
That's what I was gonna
completely
ask,
different.
does it have to be cleaned up in the brownfield and then it's?
Well, we closed the two spills already.
Okay.
Bart, you wanna take this one for the Brownsfield?
Yeah, of course, but so it was purchased with an open spill. And it was foreclosed on by Sterling Bank. And likely the former owner walked away because of the environmental. And there was a considerable amount of eutrophied soils which were pulled out of the front in the location of some former tanks. And we were able to close that spill. We were opened up the various areas of the garage where you had other contaminants, hydraulic lifts and what have you. And we had another spill outside as part of the sewer project, and we were able to do the mitigation there and close that. And we are going through the brownfield process as well with New York State DEC. And we're trying to go with that process to the highest level and be completely free of contaminants. So rather than a level 3, we're looking at a level 1, which is the highest level now.
I might just ask Lino to pipe in here. This is really the introduction of this application, not the full vetting.
Correct, this is, what you have before you is a proposed inducement resolution. So the inducement will do just that, it will induce this project, assuming that this board's in favor of it. And then the next step after that will be that we would set the public hearing, I think it would be next month,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
We'll have the public hearing, and after that, it would come back before us for a final authorizing resolution for the project.
Can I just ask one more question? I know the property really well. are you gonna have enough parking? You said there were 35 rooms plus a restaurant? Is there
52.
52 rooms, that's even worse. Is there gonna be
Better,
enough?
better,
Better,
better.
but parking. Is there gonna be enough parking? I just trying
Look,
to.
we've done a traffic study, we've done a parking study, we have spent, the planning board of the town of Cornwall has been remarkably thorough, and we've reviewed that, and we actually recently, because of a desire to have additional seats in the restaurant, are proposing to build parking on an adjacent property. So the site which is about an acre, which has the footprint of the hotel of about 7,000 feet, had 50 some odd parking spots. We are looking to add another 17 on the adjacent parcel. And we believe that will cover the parking.
Where is that parcel located?
Directly adjacent to it. There used to be a lawyer's office named Charles Obremski who had, you know the site?
Yep, I do.
So that was purchased by a companion corporation, also owned by Mr. Perez, and we're looking to expand parking onto that site as well.
Thank you.
I would just ask applicant's counsel between now and when the public hearing set, just to provide us whatever resolutions from the municipality with respect to conditional approval. I know you give me an EAF, but whatever approvals you have, resolution, just submit those. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to entertain the inducement resolution. I don't know if we want more explanation from Lino. It basically tees it up to set a public hearing at a date in the future. Any questions on that? It is in your packet. I'm showing page 88.
No, I'd like to hear what the feedback is from the public hearing from
Yeah.
Mr. Guinea. I think that's very
Absolutely.
important.
That's what it's about. So we would need a vote on that inducement resolution if anyone's ready to make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Dean, thank you.
I'll second it.
Second by Susan. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you for coming to us, your application. Good luck with the project.
We'll be in touch to schedule a public hearing. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Take care.
You too.
Moving on to the Indigo water source discussion. Bill,
Yes.
please tee that up.
First of all, thank you, gentlemen, for your patience with this. We thought this would be a lengthier discussion, so we wanted to get through that. As the board knows, you've received all the pertinent documents. We received a joint request from County Executive Newhouse and Mayor DeStefano actually last spring, so it's something we've been talking about for quite a while. We have a number of meetings on it, a lot of diligence that's been done. It's a request for the IDA to help fund a water study to analyze the viability of a well field in the Mount Hope Waybayonda area, known as Indigo, with a T at the end. Really want to study what those test wells, et cetera, other analysis to find out what those wells could yield. And the purpose would be to provide potable water for use of City of Middletown residents, but also there's an opportunity because of some infrastructure that's been put in place for this water to also serve the town of Goshen and the town of Waybayonda. And the idea and the reason it's up our alley is because it's an opportunity to serve some potential economic development sites in those areas. So water, the scarcity of water is an issue, be an issue for our lifetime, so this is a critical project that, again, could enable future economic development. Again, we've had a lot of discussions with all the parties involved, and we do have CDM Smith, Mr. O'Rourke, and Mr. Kelly here to answer any technical questions about the proposal. There was, I will say, 2 proposals that I've shared. The first included analyzing the viability of developing a reservoir on the site as well. And because we're unsure, all parties not exactly certain as to if the DEC would approve it and any of that, we also received from CDM Smith a revised proposal that took out the reservoir component, and then it's a lower cost on the proposal for that. You've seen those. You have the letter from the County Executive, Mayor DeStefano, and we really want to open it up to some questions and discussion. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, again, we met with most of the folks in this room regarding this, so, with respect to the request, I think I mentioned to the board, is an appropriate ask of the IDA. So, without further ado, I know we have folks that have been waiting, I would just turn it over to them to see what anything further like that to the discussion.
For sure.
I could jump in real quick. First of all, it's good to see everybody. I know different roles. Linda, you were running Cornerstone last I saw, and I know a bunch of you on the board. So the way this really got put into, well, the county involved in it is county exec twice removed, or twice prior to me, Lou Heimbach, back in the 80s, and the county preserved a lot of this property with the intention of using it for future water use. I was approached by the mayor of Middletown, who I have a great working relationship, that, look, I'm not gonna start my own water district, the county's not going to, and they have a very robust and existing system. He said, why don't we look at making some type of arrangements that the city of Middletown helps develop the Indigo property, which would provide water for that corridor that Bill highlighted, 17M, which would help Wawayanda and Goshen. So that's really how we came involved in this. I will tell you on a side note, I think the county is not only economically growing and strong now, but we are really on the cusp of some really cool stuff. Last week, or about 2 weeks ago, I was introduced into build submarines. You'll see them if you go to the major ball fields now and see advertisement. We have about 60 manufacturers of submarine parts now in the Hudson Valley area, including Orange County. And they've been back more and more to Orange County to try to do and develop more. We met with them on Monday night. Again, on Monday, I met with the ambassador of Taiwan, who flew and met with us in the fall. And we're gonna be taking a trip to Taiwan in March, about 4 or 5 of us, to talk about how we can bring this infamous, that everybody's talking about, these chip manufacturers, or an R&D facility to our area. They like this area so much, the ambassador's in Orange County right now, it's actually at West Point. So this is, but we're gonna have provide some areas that they can develop. And that lifeblood for them for these industries, as we all know, it's the classical ones: sewer, power, and water. And that's really what we're here for today. And Joe and his great engineer, Jacob Tweel, came up with this great plan to develop that site. Maybe we can build a reservoir there. We know at a minimum, we're gonna at least be able to expand the well sites, develop well sites that we can connect into their system, which will provide more water and opportunities for these areas. So Joe, what am I missing here?
Well, just a bit of the history is the city has the right to the first 1 million gallons of water out of Indigo. That goes back to the Amy's deal from many, many years ago that obviously Amy's isn't using, but we still have the right to that water. So the idea is that Indigo is adjacent to our reservoir system. At the time when we had that discussion, there was discussions between Greenville, Mount Hope, and anyone that was, even Wallkill, that was adjacent in the area of Indigo, who would be best developed, not only to develop the water source, but to distribute it. And everyone agreed it was us because we currently do it. When we have drought conditions, we dam up the Indigo with a permit, obviously, and we pump over to our reservoir system, and that water gets into our system for distribution. So we have now water lines and sewer lines down to Goshen. We have intermunicipal agreements with Wallkill and Wawayanda, where we supply water and sewer services. We believe, and I believe everyone involved believes, that the corridor from 17 down to Goshen, 17M down to Goshen, is prime for redevelopment or development. It's mostly now used car dealerships or car dealerships, and it's that low impact use because there is no water and sewer service. Denise and Wawayanda has approached us a couple of times for large scale projects, which we were not able to engage with her with, because we need to, what water source that we have now is used for the city development. We have water guaranteed for Amy's that's still set aside in our permit that we're talking to Joe Vetro about over there to go down to Goshen. And we feel that we're in the best position to partner with the county in developing this water resource. We're talking about, years ago, there was a study that was done. I think they identified by the Water Authority at least 700,000 gallons a day in the wells. It's a very old study, but we have the ability to distribute. We have partnerships with Wawayanda, Wallkill, and Goshen now. We're looking at, the study is necessary for us to move on to the next step, and that's why we're here. This will not create one shovel-ready project, this will create dozens and dozens of shovel-ready projects along that 17M corridor. Because you keep in mind also that Mid-Hudson is gonna be, New York City is gonna be running the water and sewer lines down 17M this year, or I believe in 25 or 26, they're gonna be getting. So there's possibility of looping all these in, but the idea is you can have all the pipes in the ground as you want, but without the water source, there's nothing to distribute. And that's why we're here. Obviously, we're, as a city, we have a benefit to us. We have the revenue that will be generated by it at some point. And we're also, our proposal, I believe, had a component in, once we start drawing the water, to repay the IDA for the X amount of dollars, whatever grant that came back to us. Of course, not until we start drawing it, because we're not gonna be selling it until we start drawing it.
So it would be an investment.
It would be an investment, and we only charge the same rate that the city charges to city water, Milltown residents and businesses. There's no separate rate, there's no opportunity for gouging of a neighboring community. But we have these agreements in place now, and if the county is going to see any development along 17M down to Goshen, you're seeing it on each end now, this is the way to do it. And there's a lot of vacant land, even going off of 17M, that has the possibilities, including the county jail and some county facilities which need water, because their water agreements are expiring with the Village of
Yeah,
Florida.
the Village of Florida's water source is getting more and more threatened. It's being silted into Glenmere Lake, and they've asked us if we could come up with an alternate plan to not draw water from there anymore, so it would obviously allow them to keep their home base facilitated. So that's what we're looking for, is to, we have the jail, we have the 911 center, we have a new medical examiner's office, so we would like to tie that in there too eventually as one of the options, as if this happens.
And just add to your remarks, Mayor, that the city of Middletown has pledged $100,000 toward funding this study since the beginning of our discussions.
I have a few questions, that's okay.
Anything else you want to add first?
No,
before we finish?
I might just say a couple things before we go to the questions. Bill, I believe our board is aware, and it's in our packet, the revised wells only cost
Yes.
is $714,000 compared to the original cost of $1,094,000, which is a nice step in the right direction. Myself, I would hope there's a slight possibility the reservoir part might not be completely out of it, because it's a nice way to store up water, which if that additional cost came back, would have to figure out how to cover it. Certainly, in this room, I see a lot of teamwork from the county to the city of Middletown to the towns around Middletown. And I drive down 17M not often, but I see what's out there, and it's not a whole lot. There's an old landfill, the psych center, the area Amy's was gonna go on, so there does seem like a lot of potential, and I think I know from the IDA board, we would like to be partners and part of this team going ahead. But we'd also like to see that teamwork from all parties continue in this project. So I'd open it up for questions, Bill, unless you have something else to add at this point. Sue?
So I understand the water portion of it. Hopefully, I know there's been discussions about possibly a convention center down that way, as well as something new to go into Amy's, since what was supposed to be there has not transpired. As well as Amazon had a large project they wanted to do, but backed out of down in Wanda area. My question though, however, with water comes sewerage, okay? Will the project properties that could be affected have to put in their own sewage, or does your sewer plant have the capacity to handle that extended water supply?
Jacob, you want to handle it?
Yeah, it will have capacity, and also we will expand as needed. As additional water sources get online, we will have to expand our water treatment plant eventually, and we will expand our wastewater treatment plant.
And how will that be funded?
That's outside this,
From the users?
yeah,
The
it's all
potential
users, and we'll be looking for grants and everything like that.
Okay.
But that's outside.
I'm just asking because it doesn't make sense to improve one if the other's gonna need improvement and the funding is not there for it.
What's our capacities now in sewer? and-
8.5, right now, 8.5 is our maximum, our design capacity at the wastewater treatment plant, 8.5 million gallons per day. We are running at 5.5 million gallons per day.
So we
So
have
we have
enough.
additional 3 million gallons extra capacity right now.
Okay.
Other questions? Linus?
Hi. Mayor, really nice to see you
See
again,
you.
as always, and our county executive, nice to see you too.
Nice to see you.
As I heard you speak, it's really nice to hear the county's in good shape. Good job. Extra money floating around, like that, a lot. As I look at this $1 million, I'm looking at who benefits from, should the proposal go through and you find the water. So the county will benefit from taxes as well as other things, new industry coming in. Clearly, the city will benefit by charging for the water and be a new revenue stream, and local municipalities will also benefit from it. First of all, I want to thank you, Mayor, for putting skin in the game with your $100,000 commitment. Don't want to put you on the hook, but our county executive, what is the county going to do towards this?
Yeah, I've had similar, I've expressed the same thing as on behalf of the county, as long as I can get it reimbursed, like the IDA has gotten in the past. Prior boards did some investment in the former jail site in Warwick, and I think that was 100% reimbursed now, Bill?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't mind doing that, so I don't mind looking, it's almost like a Shark Tank, I hate to say it like that, guys, but we're looking at investing in things, and we need to see if it's got the potential. And the thing that sold me on this is this has been talked about since the 80s, so I was even starting puberty when this land was purchased and invested. But it's been sitting there, and Joe approached me and said, "Look, let's do something with this." And at the bare minimum, we're gonna get wells out of this. So I would not mind committing that as well. Rick, you're giving me the death look here, Rick's okay with it. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line, right before I came to this meeting right now, I went to our homeless shelter that we just opened up a year ago, a new one in the city of Newburgh. And there's 22 people staying in there right now, literally just left there. And it's a mix of men and women. And I asked them, what's the background of these people? Most people think that people are drug addicts or mentally ill. Many of the people have full-time jobs here, they just can't afford to live. So what we're trying to do, and one of the biggest complaints I get is tell everybody to stop with the warehouses, bring these other jobs. I think in order for us to be in the game, to be eligible to bring these high-end jobs, is like you asked about sewer. The other problem we have is power. I have to talk to the power company 2-3 years before our applicants can even get in the ground because they don't have enough power to facilitate them. So I think we're all on the same page and bringing in some good quality jobs. But yeah, Linda, I definitely want to put skin in the game too. I'm willing to put 100,000 and match Middletown.
And I think what I heard Steve say was he wants us to pay that back when we pay you guys back.
You'll pay us all back.
So I'll
And
send
we're agreeable to that.
And County, I would throw out a different proposal. So we have a $714,000 bill. City of Middletown is putting up $100,000. Thank you very much. What if we split the cost, $300,000 apiece?
I'm not sure. I have to look at that. That's something I might have to go back to the legislature on because and believe me, I don't think it's out of their realm. But I will tell you, I got legislators from all over the county, and I have to justify to the Newburgh guys. I need to justify to the folks from Cornwall. I need to justify from Chester what this benefits them. But I mean, that would be something I'd have to go back to for.
Are they supportive of this project?
I think so, absolutely.
All right, well, I'm one voice, but I would ask that because, and certainly getting paid back would be really nice too, because, heaven forbid the project can't move forward because it isn't gonna do the things that need to be done. Oh,
I would take it to the next direction, and I would say a third. Because that's what my legislature will come back like, why don't we do it that way?
I'm good with that too, but, you're committing your mayor over there.
I don't know if I'm good with that.
Well, there you go. So somebody's gonna have it, but.
This started as a project that would benefit a lot of people.
Understood.
And
The bigger
there will be a
pieces-
revenue stream from us, but there are potential huge capital expenditures for us
I
at some
understand.
point. So, investing on, at that point, me getting my legislative body.
No,
to
I understand.
agree to that would be very
My
difficult.
reason for saying split it is the county you benefit from it, but the county benefits from it a lot more if this all comes to fruition. You got Taiwan and you got all these
Well, they're
other
not
people.
here, those are
Well,
birds in the bush.
I understand, but they're in the mix and there's opportunities.
And
to
more
look at.
importantly, is the local towns benefit too. So if Joe lands another Lego land, Joe, I love the guy, but he's got one of the best jobs in the world. He has a town that gets a check for over $1 million a year from a Lego every year.
Understood. So I appreciate the ask for the entire amount, but I'd like to see a proposal come back that says, on top of Mayor Joe's contribution, what would the contribution from the county be? And the risk then is a little bit less for us.
I'd like to just do a Shark Tank thing and make a decision, because we keep kicking, I know this is the first time we're meeting with you, but he and I have been at this for a long time until we got here.
Yeah,
right?
we met with Jeff, I think, and
Yeah.
some members of the board, and Bill, and had some.
Well, for me, I don't think I could do that vote tonight, I'm only one voice. I would appreciate you going back to the legislature and see if the proposal, if my fellow board members are in agreement, to try and move that back. Other things that you've asked us to do, we have done. We're just asking, it's a big nut to crack, and we have other projects that are coming down the pike. If there's an opportunity for us to share the remainder burden, that would be a great partnership between the county and the IDA.
And if I could just add, one of the complications when we, going back to legislative bodies is, and then the plan dissolves, is that everyone thinks that when a big project comes in, that, like, the city of Middletown will automatically give water and sewer to a project outside the city limits. And that's not going to happen anymore, because the way the permitting process has changed now, we have to go through a special process to get a water use permit outside the city. And that's why we need to develop a water source.
Understood.
So we're not going to utilize what we have for our development in the city. So if you had a convention center, which we did, by the way, or the town of Walkill, we had a significant private investment convention center that wanted to come into the city. But the only properties were county-owned property adjacent to the city. Walkill would not allow the property to be annexed in, and we would not supply water and sewer to the project outside the city. And that's how you get these back and forth between municipal bodies. That's why I think the best place to address it is through here. You're the economic development engine of the county. These are shovel-ready projects that will benefit the entire county. And to go back and deal with 3 legislative bodies now, I think is just going to delay to the point where maybe it doesn't happen at all. And you're not talking a lot of money, but you are talking a lot of political posturing when you get to dealing with other legislative boards. People always are looking for an advantage. You're not looking for an advantage, you're looking for development. And we have the ability now to deliver this. And we've been at it a long time, and I think it's important, you'd be talking a couple $100,000.
I might just jump in here. I see some urgency here. I see urgency for the opportunity. I know, and I think it's appropriate to say Amazon is still looking in way Wayanda, and that process is moving along. Being able to expect some payback eventually, and for the county to put in $100,000, that basically gets us down to $500,000. The total cost had started at $1,094,000. I kind of agree with, well, I do agree with you, Steve. It's time to jump in and make something happen here. If the price goes back up to the $1,094,000, that's gonna be a tough nut, and we'll readdress things then. Jacob?
Yeah, if I may, the price is actually $1 million for the study, I'm sorry. Because the idea is we're gonna explore the use, if reservoir, at the very beginning of the study, we're gonna do our research with the consulting engineer. If the reservoir is not feasible at the very beginning, before we spend any money, then we'll meet with the DEC. The DEC, they'll tell us you cannot build the reservoir, whether it is by law or by regulations, whatever the reason is. If we're convincing, then we'll stop spending any money on the reservoir, then we will focus on the wells.
Yes.
But honestly, for the future of the county, especially the middle of the county in there, we need a reservoir if we can build it. So we
Yes,
just don't wanna give
yes.
up on it for
Yes.
$300,000 in there.
Yeah.
The study, we wanna do the feasibility once and for all, like the county executive said, and the mayor, it's been on the books for forever, literally.
Mhm.
And those two, they are the ones who made it move forward. So this is our chance, honestly, if we don't do it now, I know it's not gonna happen in the future.
So I think it's a situation where the IDA can provide some leadership here, some real team work and partnership with the municipalities and the government. So I hear you, Linda. I'm not sure it's worth the time for that part of the negotiation. We know what our finances are. The payback, I think, is a big deal.
Just a
And-
friendly reminder that this is the first time this has come to the body, so we've not had an opportunity to have this conversation. We've not had an opportunity to dialogue about it, so I just wanna make sure that's part of the record, that this is the first time, at least for me, a board member that's been here since April of 2024, it's the first time I've heard this. As a proposal, that's the first time it's crossed the desk.
It was in your board packet,
I
and
now-
I believe Bill spoke with you on it.
I did share it a
No,
while ago
I'm saying that
initially.
we just got this, this isn't like a long-term thing
First time
that's
it's
been
come
going
before this body
before
like
the-
Yeah, well, this
board.
one letter's dated January 22nd, 2025, so.
Again, they've been talking about how it's been a long-term project, which may have been,
Mhm.
but for this body, it has not been.
So, just a few more questions,
Mhm.
if that's okay. So this pays for the feasibility study. To actually develop these wells is gonna be a very significant investment. Where will you be looking to fund that investment?
It's actually, we're gonna be looking for federal grants and federal money. Without this study, we cannot go and apply for additional funding for the development of the water source. You have to have the report to document, and this study to document that, yes, there is water, you can develop an adequate water source in this area, this is how much it's gonna cost, then we can go search for grants and additional funding source. But without this study, we cannot go ask for grants or anything like that.
So, and then, another question is, you're obviously, Middletown's gonna declare themselves lead agency, I guess, on this?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, who's gonna own this study? We're funding it, or funding it in part. Who owns the study once it's done? Is that gonna belong to the city of Middletown? Is it gonna be a shared study with Goshen and Waywanda? Who owns the study?
Well, I think the three parties involved, the county, the city, and the IDA would own the study.
That was just
But- which
making
makes it-
sure.
Which would make it a public document anyway, but,
It
yeah,
would- it
we have
would
no
be a-
problem, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, we have no problem sharing it with anyone, with Waywanda, Walk Hill, Goshen, whoever would wanna see it. Our goal, if the study shows what we think it's going to show, would be to move as quickly as we can, seeking grants, looking how we can best get that water out, because obviously at the end game, there's an advantage to us, there's a benefit to the city by selling the water and sewer, just like we have now. We're not doing it out of the goodness of our heart, you know that.
Right.
We're doing it because it not only benefits the city economically, it benefits our residents, jobs. There's other opportunities that will be created by this, but there is many benefits to the county. So it's to our advantage to get this thing out as quickly as possible. But we can't get to step 2 and 3 until we get the study done.
I was just going to say that it would be open to the public by the process that they're doing this. Also, there wouldn't be seeker done before this study, just I want to make that clear. This would be, this is a type 2 action under seeker to go ahead and do
Okay,
the
it's type 2.
necessary investigation. But before they got funding for the actual project, or they would have to go ahead and complete seeker by that time. Because you have to have seeker completed before you undertake fund or review the project.
To Susan's point, though, to the extent that this board does approve it, because the CDM Smith proposal that was revised on January 22nd is addressed to City of Middletown, so you may want to reflect maybe parties of the county and the IDA involved as part of the study, that's all.
Thank you.
So I have a couple questions. So this is a study, correct? So we don't really know where this will end up, correct? So, but I will say to the board, my- these gentlemen have been such advocates for this county to build. Steve has said numerous times that he goes places and they need answers. Immediately, the first person on board is the one who gets these projects. They've been very successful in bringing good, great projects to the county. I personally, I would support it because I think that the work that these guys have put in, Joe, for years, everything, great projects for the county. We have clawback to bring some of this, get the money back in the future. I know it's something that, it's a lot of money. I don't wanna, say little upon the amount of money that we're talking about. But I think that somewhere along the line, the municipalities have to expend the money to get these projects in. We hear all the time that, oh, we're gonna go there because it's so easy to get approvals and whatever else. We are the development, Orange County Development Corp. I think that we should really take a look at this. And I'm seriously thinking about approving what these guys need to move this county forward as quickly as possible. That's what I think.
I think just two things on what you said, Dean. One, as you said, we're not sure what this is gonna yield, and you're right. But we have a great idea because they had at least 750,000 gallons a day well study that they did decades ago.
Yeah.
The other thing I was saying, I think Linda alluded to it too, the county is strong financially, but I'm doing some massive investments. I gotta invest $250 million in a sewer plant overhaul that's not budgeted in Southern Orange County. It's at end of life, it's gotta be expanded. We're also doing massive road infrastructure projects. So the county's we're doing multiple investments throughout the county right now. More than we've probably ever done in the history of the county. So we're using any money that we have saved to not only give taxpayer relief, but we're investing heavily in buildings that nobody touches. And I think that's a good thing. We're proud of our roads, but they're only as good as we continue to maintain them. So I just wanted to make sure you guys know that, like, the county's not like, hey, we're sitting on this, you pay for it, not me. That's the situation we're in.
Just like to add one thing, Mike Torelli, how you doing? Part of this study is not just a paper study, it's actually doing water exploration with stuff in the ground. So there are deliverables that can be realized by the study by actually doing test borings and actual wells that'll show you where it could be produced, and then once you find it, it can be where it can be piped, whether to a reservoir, to the existing reservoir system, and eventually to the water treatment plant. So there actually is deliverables, not just theory. It's actually like boots on the ground, people doing work, digging holes in the ground, finding water. So that's a big difference.
One of you guys mentioned the collaboration, I think Dean did. I have a county of over 30 different cities, villages, and towns. I don't know any place in the county right now that's doing this, where you have two town supervisors. Denise is in our meetings regularly from Wawayanda. So that's what I'm saying, like, I don't know anywhere else in the county that's doing this right now that says, we have this hot area, we think it's future ripe for development. I don't see anybody else coming to the table like we are with a project like this.
Also, like the county executive said, if a project comes in tomorrow and they say we need water, well, there's no water. On 17, you can't give them water. We got the 350,000 gallons in there for Amy's Kitchen. Maybe they can use some of it, immediately through Goshen. But that's it. There is no water. There is nothing to develop in that region without this project. I can honestly say that because there is no water. DEC is going after everybody with a magnifying glass. You can't build here. You can't build here because you don't have the water. This is an extremely essential project for mid Orange County. Extremely essential, and I keep telling the county executive and the mayor, this is generational. I honestly mean it. It's a generational project to find a water source in Middletown.
Doc?
In the Bay Area.
Yeah, I think I echo what Dean just said. We should allow this project to go on. I mean, there's no need wasting much time, holding it back. So, I mean, that's my opinion.
Mr. Chair, I just have one final question. So are you asking for the million or the 714?
We're asking for the million.
For the million, okay. So then with contributions from the city of Middletown and for the county, thank you very much, both of you gentlemen, you're asking for $800,000 from the IDA. Is that correct?
Yes, to be funded.
But keep in mind, we'll also take what you give us, but we think it's best.
I'm just asking what the ask is.
It's best that, as Jacob said, that we begin looking at, because a lot of the work is duplicative. You gotta do a lot of the work for the wells that you're gonna do for the reservoir. And we'll know early on in the study, if the reservoir is not feasible, the county owns 1,000 acres. I don't know if we added that, but this site is 1,000 acres.
I get you.
It's prime for a reservoir. But if the DEC or the EPTA or the EPA, the Army Corps say at the beginning of the study that, listen, this is a huge uphill battle, we don't wanna waste your money and we don't wanna waste our money.
Understood.
Eventually, but we think it's, the practical thing would be to allot the entire amount
Mhm.
and then be in touch with you as a board and with the county and with ourselves. And after the initial phase is done, as Jacob made it, and determinations are made, we would share with you, if that makes it a difference, that, well, here's where we're at, and do you think, we could all then agree to move forward or stop the reservoir process.
Understood. You know me, I'm a
Yeah.
bottom line girl.
Yes,
I'm just
yes.
looking for what the number is. So the number is 800,000 is what the shortfall would be between what the two of you are willing to put into the project and what the IDA is
Yes.
being asked to backfill. I just want to make sure we're clear.
Can I ask you gentlemen to share one other thing for the board's edification? Can you talk about what happens after the study? What other work needs to be done? What kinds of investment, and maybe where that will happen? What are shorter-term deliverables and longer-term deliverables in that process?
Right after the study, like the gentleman here, he said, the wells, they will be able to produce water much faster to develop, and we gotta make sure that they're gonna be built outside the footprints of the reservoir, if the reservoir is feasible. So that's immediately, so there is something that we can immediately develop, which is the wells. Shortly after that would be the reservoir. And again, it will require us, once we have the study to prove that the reservoir is feasible or wells are feasible, then we will go asking for, searching for additional funding to develop this source. The bottom line is we don't have any option if we don't have this source. Where is the chip factory, whatever Steve is gonna come up with, where is he gonna get the water from? It's the only game in town, I believe.
I'll add to Jacob as well, is that the county planning department has identified this corridor as a priority growth area. The IDA has already done a study on available sites in this corridor. I think what comes after this is if the water can happen, people like Joe and Denise can potentially take a look at their zoning and upzone it so it has better uses. Right now you can't put a chip fab plant on 17M or a food manufacturing plant on 17M. You don't have the water in the sewer. If you can envision like what the village of Goshen did, with the help of the IDA and the county and the town and the village, of bringing royal wine, that type of development can come up, but right now it can't. So I think after the fact, what happens is once it's known that something can be done, then they can actually look at their economic development policies internally, I say they, meaning the towns, to be able to approve projects that are of better nature. But without that, it's the low line through, I hate to say it. It's gonna be more car dealerships and stuff that doesn't consume the actual infrastructure. So
That's helpful, thank you.
Susan?
I'm trying to put in my mind a timeline. So let's say you walk out of here tonight and you say, okay, we're gonna give you the cash. We'll lend you the cash, because we do expect repayment, like we did with the Warwick project. What is the length of time you think the study's gonna take, and how long after that will it take you to start development? And I'm not gonna hold you to it, but I'm just.
The study's a year, I believe. Yeah, the study is 1 year.
Okay.
And then development, I'll let the engineers, I guess depending on what the study says, will be how we move forward. But again, it's in our best interest as the distributor of the water to get this water out as quickly as possible. If we have all access to this 1 million gallons a day, or whatever this generates, it's in our best interest, because it doesn't move anything along. It doesn't move the jobs, it doesn't move the housing, or whatever comes with it. It doesn't come without us getting it out the door. So we have, our distribution system is right next door to the Indigo. So it's not gonna take a lot of infrastructure, I don't believe, Jacob, to
Yeah.
get it over to our system.
Yep.
We are literally, we literally do it now, in a sense, where we dam up the Indigo Creek during drought, and we just did this, this past summer, or earlier in the winter, not even the summer, that where we dam it up and then we pump over to our reservoir system. So I'm not an engineer, but he can probably talk to it better, but I don't think it takes a lot for us to do that, to get this water into our system.
Yeah, the wells will not take a lot, but so you would know, we are spending right now $8.5 million, City of Middletown, to reinforce the raw water line going from Kench to Shawangunk, which is basically that water will be pumped right into it. So we are spending right now $8.5 million just for raw water lines running in the woods to convey water from one reservoir to another. That will be a great fit for this water to be pumped into it to go to our reservoirs. We spent another like over $12 million for dam improvement for City of Middletown on its own without anybody and without minimal grants. So we're investing heavily in our raw water system and our finished water system in order to be available for the projects that the county exec is speaking of to deliver.
Again, I was just thinking out loud because if projects are gonna come in looking for IDA assistance in that court, we need to be able to tell them that, we know that that infrastructure is gonna be there for them.
Okay, agreed.
I had a little misunderstanding about where we were starting from tonight in our Zoom call there a week or two ago with this new letter. I was just under the impression the price was $714 without the reservoir. If we agreed to the 514 and the 100 and the 100 tonight, can you at least start the review to see if the reservoir is a possibility? Because if you get to the point and it's not, you're good to go. And Bill, I just thought that was the number we were looking at for tonight.
I don't want to blow it.
Bill, what was the total number we put into the forward prison, 1.5?
I think it was 1.5, and we reimbursed for all of it except $500,000 was a non-reimbursable grant, is how the IDA framed it.
We'll take the same deal.
Thanks,
So I have a few questions, and.
I'm waiting for you, Mark, go ahead.
Well, I'm not nearly as well-spoken as my compatriots up here. I tend to be a little more, so, we're all talking about payback, but I'm really not understanding the asset that the payback is gonna come off of. You're asking money for a study that has no tangible asset to it. So it's not as, we're all talking about, we can figure out a way to pay you guys back, but if this study comes back or this project doesn't move forward, there's no asset attached to that, and I don't get the feeling that you're gonna write checks unless this project goes through. Is that correct?
That's correct, but we do have a study from 20 years ago that the Orange County Water Authority did, so we know there's water there.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't know if a study from 20 years ago is something that I think we should be basing this on, because quite frankly, the county's built up significantly in the last 20, 25 years, and there's nothing to say that there's gonna be more water there. Frankly, I'm more concerned there's gonna be a lot less water there.
Well, I'm not so sure in the area where Indigo is that there hasn't been much development at all. In fact, Greenville and Mount Hope both passed on the opportunity to provide water to Amy's using the Indigo water because they refused development. They don't want it. So I don't think there's gonna be much of a change. And I think the Water Authority study was not 100% conclusive that that was the only amount of water there. I think it was very confident that there was additional water sources. If you speak to the farmers out there, you'll truly believe there's a lot more water out there. So, but that also goes into the reservoir component too, with Indigo. The creek, I think, is a pretty viable water source for a reservoir development. And that's why it's important for, I believe, that if we're gonna do this study, that we keep the reservoir component in it because of that actual, you can see that water. And I know what you're saying, we don't know what's underground. We have a pretty good idea, but until we get there, I guess when you were doing Warwick, you didn't know that was gonna happen either. There's a lot of things that can happen early on in a project that can make it go to hell. But here, we're on a pretty sound basis that there is a lot of water there, groundwater. There is the Indigo Creek, which has a pretty good flow. And the county owns 1,000 acres of property. You have the ability to distribute it. You have the county, at least 2 towns, Wawayanda and Goshen, willing to cooperate and becoming users of this water. So I think it's a home run. Is there a risk? I guess any project there's a risk.
It seems like it's a pretty big risk.
And I don't know if it's a big risk, but I think there is always a slight risk with things. But if there was no risk, we would do it on our own and not pay back anybody. If I knew there's a guarantee that there was 1 million gallons of water there, why wouldn't I just do it on my own? I could convince my board to do it.
So your argument to me is?
My argument to you is we have a study
Wow.
that shows that there's a significant amount of water there. I'm not disagreeing with you that there is a risk. Of course there's a risk. If you're asking, because you opened up with saying, would I guarantee writing you a check?
No, I didn't ask you that, sir. What I said was that there's no tangible asset associated with what you all are asking. And that, everyone's talking about, we're gonna, we'll figure out a pay structure and those kinds of things. But that's fugazi. That's just out there. Because you're talking about, we have to do this thing. We're talking about a year. Then we're talking about, actually implementing this. So this is gonna take a few more years, right? So again, I buy into 100% that corridor, we need to do something. I buy in 100% of trying to make it shovel ready. I buy into all those things you're saying 100%. But what I'm having difficulty understanding is that when you say, well, it's only a couple of $100,000, I respond to you, fine, it's only a couple of $100,000, but then how come we're fighting over this? And with all due respect, Mr. Newhouse, you say you have to negotiate with different parts of the county, but then you come out and say we're going to do a $750 million in South Orange County, and we're doing all these other projects, and this is going to affect Goshen, Wawayanda, all these different municipalities, and yet it doesn't seem like anybody else is coming up to the table. So I do have to ask, where is it? So that is my concern with this right now. And again, when we walked in, it was 700,000. Now we're going to be on the hook for 800,000. Those are concerns for me. And again, I buy into everything you're saying. That's why we redid our UTEP to try and eliminate just investing in warehouses, or to at least mitigate that and encourage different types of investments. I agree 100% in shovel ready. That's why we've committed millions of dollars to shovel ready programs. But you're asking for us to hand over this money in a very nebulous, we're going to do a study. And there is a lot more than a little risk with that. Because, as you say, if it doesn't go forward, you're not going to look back at us and go, well, we owe you $700,000. We're gonna pay it back, even though the project didn't go forward. And you even just admitted to me that there's risk because you would do it yourself if there wasn't.
Of course there's risk. I can't tell you what's in the ground. But I can tell you what the previous studies have shown. But you have 4 communities. You have Wawayanda, Goshen, Middletown, and Orange County. 4 legislative bodies that are looking to develop the last possibility to develop an area of the county that goes through all 4 of us, the 3 municipalities plus the county. It's been identified as a prime development zone for the county, and there is only one way to get water to that property, and that is through this type of project.
100%. And where are they?
And Jacob, did you have something to add to this?
Yeah, it's basically, honestly, the question, I respect what you're saying, and yes, there is absolutely water there, in the groundwater, we know that. The question is how much. We know there's about 700,000 gallons, and that was documented study. The study was not completed 100% so that it can be submitted to the DEC. That's why the study was cut short. but we know that there is water. We're gonna go back and explore and document it and to present it to the DEC that yes, there is water, there is 700,000 gallons, hopefully more underground. Surface water, it's a project that's been on the books for decades. Everybody's talking about building reservoir in there because there's a huge watershed in there that leads all the water towards that indigo. So there's a great potential for a reservoir. Whether the DEC says that, oh, by law you cannot do it or not, this is something that we're going to flush out at the very beginning. The question really that comes down to is, what option do you have? If a developer comes in and he says, I need 250,000 gallons per day tomorrow, if Steve, county exec, he finds something there along 17M, what are we gonna do?
I agree with you. I've said I agree with you, sir. You're repeating yourself.
Okay,
You
sorry.
haven't answered my question.
Which is?
Why aren't the other municipalities that are gonna benefit from this putting up some money for it? Even a token amount. Yeah, there's nothing. So that's my question. You're saying 4 municipalities are gonna benefit. I only see one municipality saying, I'm willing to do something.
Because I think that there's no guarantee that the water is gonna be distributed X amount of gallons to Wawayanda, X amount of gallons to Walk Hill, and X amount of gallons to Goshen. It's not a sharing of the water resource. It's what projects come in. If a project comes in on 17M, a chip manufacturer, and they say we need 700,000 gallons a day, we're gonna probably try to do it. I think with the county and Wawayanda say that this is a good project for us, then where does that leave Goshen and where does that leave Walk Hill? And that's why the study, the way we have looked at it, at least from my perspective, was the county and the city, the county being who they are and the city being the distributor and the county being the owner of the water resource, that we partner and then we farm that water out to where it's needed. That why would Goshen contribute 100,000 gallons to this study and then not get any water out of it?
It's a feedstock for us,
Yeah.
not ownership in the project.
But so there is the opportunity to do a huge project on this corridor. The water might not even make it to Goshen. It might just make, we have people on 17M, Frank Sienna, who owns a couple of the auto dealers there. He's calling every day. When are you going to provide me water and sewer? When are you going to do this? When's it going to happen? I have big projects I want to come in down here. I have this, I have that. And I tell them it's not in Middletown, it's Wawayanda. You got to call Denise. And she's telling them to call me. But the idea is, if a project came in on his property, which is close to 84, that took up the whole 1 million gallons, and it was a project that generated hundreds and hundreds of jobs and for Middletown residents and county residents, I think we would all say yes, let's go ahead and do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why Goshen and Walk Hill would say, why do you want me to pay in the study? And that's what happens in the political bodies. And that's why we're here for you guys, because you're an economic development team for the county. You're not a parochial, like Goshen's gonna look out for Goshen, we're gonna look out for Middletown, Denise is gonna look out for Wawayanda. You guys rise above that. You're there to do the development and set the property up for development. And that's all we're asking. We will be able to provide water and sewer, 1 million gallons along that route for as far as 1 million gallons goes. And if you build a reservoir, we'll go to 2, 3, 4 million gallons. We'll make the capital investment on the water and sewer filtration systems. And that's our cost. But for now, we have the opportunity to do this 1 million gallons. The first one out the door, first big project out the door, it goes.
Linda.
I guess just from due diligence, and I guess this is just my level of frustration. The letter that was dated from Mr. Newhouse was a year ago, March 2024. And both of you have said that it takes a lot of time to go back and talk to your bodies, your governing bodies, to get their support for a project. Has it always just been your thought that the IDA was going to do this project?
Never.
Why you didn't go back to your governing bodies, the legislatures, and ask them for any additional support?
Well, we've had a couple of false starts here too. Going back a few months, we were scheduled to come in, so we were hopeful to have a discussion with you first. I know going to my legislative body for the first 100,000 gallons, $100,000 was difficult enough for the very reasons that some of them that you have raised. is how do we know it's there? That type of question. So I don't think I have the ability to make it work beyond what we're putting on the table. But again, because then it becomes Middletown Walk Hill, Middletown Way Beyond Goshen. All of those, who's gonna get the water? Who's gonna benefit? Who's accountable to who? You have a group in Way Beyond that's arguing against any type of development. They don't want Way Beyond to have any type of development whatsoever. You have lawsuits pending, you have threats of lawsuits. So this puts in place the opportunity to develop a water source where there is currently water district. Way Beyond has one, Walk Hill has one with the city of Middletown, Goshen is forming one. And once you provide that water source, we provide that water source with the county, you're going to see that corridor develop.
I think no one at all is in disagreement with that. I think this is just a process piece, at least for me. And the two greatest concerns I have is, one, this letter that was dated a year ago on March 14, 2024, to go back and talk to your legislators and see if there was any movement, knowing the position the county's in, to see how could be additional funding from the county to support this. And then number two, you keep saying that you know the water's in there, which is great. I hope to God it is in there. My worry is we don't know that it's in there, and what happens if it isn't. Those are the only two things that I have a concern about.
So just two things on that?
Sure.
Every project you guys have in front of you is high risk. There's not one thing that comes to you and says, you give me the money, I'm gonna give you a 10 times your yield. Everything involves risk that you guys invest in. And the second thing is, the county legislature thought this was a perfect job for the IDA. They believe this is a perfect project for the IDA.
Of course they do.
And that's their position on it. So that's where we came on this, and I was ready to meet with you guys whenever you guys were meeting. He was telling me we had a lot of false starts. I've had this on my schedule every month to meet with you, and it's been canceled.
Since March of 2024?
Since a long time before that.
Before that?
I've wanted to get in for you from back then.
Rick?
Yeah, just following up on what Steve had just said. And when you're dealing, and this is sort of a larger picture thing, when you're dealing with government and economic development, there's really never any guarantees that something's going to happen at the end of the line, right? It's trying to come up with some way to incentivize economic development because of what it does for all of the citizens of Orange County. When this board gives out sales tax incentives, mortgage tax incentives, and the pilots, those aren't so much the IDA giving their own money, expecting something back. You're committing to the local municipalities and their tax base, sales tax, mortgage tax, and real property tax. And you're committing that, and those projects may fail. They may start for a month and then they may fail. And all of that, there's no guarantee that money doesn't come back to any of the municipalities at all. It's always something that is looking at something, and if it's sketchy, then we don't want to do it. But if there's a good rational basis that if an investment in a certain period of time, whether that be for a study or for the pilot or for sales tax exemptions, mortgage tax exemptions, if the project looks good, in this case, if the investment of a study has this potential, that's when the commitments are made. So there's never going to be a guarantee. Talking about an asset, whether or not there's going to be an asset, there's never a guarantee of an asset on anything that you do or anything that the local municipalities do in economic development. But I think what everyone here is saying is that this seems to have enough of a chance of success that it's worth the price of a study, and that it would be, we believe, appropriate for the IDA to be in on that investment.
I appreciate it. I just want to make sure, let's not confuse apples and oranges. You get a pilot, get sales tax exemption, that's a project that we're pretty sure is going to happen. This is not that. This is not a project where we're building anything. This is doing, essentially we're doing a survey to make sure that
This
the
is a
thing
sunk
can.
cost.
It's not the cost. It's different. We're comparing
It
apples and oranges.
is different. There's no doubt about it that it's different. But also, you were talking about guarantees before, there's no asset there. A project that you approve can fail at any time, in 6 months, a year, 2 years. But there's already been that commitment for which you commit local municipalities, counties, towns, cities, and other districts, their money in order you decide to invest that in this project because of
I understand your position, I just hope that you can understand the position. Again, I'm one voice, I'm one voice to my colleagues, and I'm a consensus builder, so I just think I would appreciate your understanding my concerns. That's all.
I think it's very clear. I was just responding to the guarantee nature of it. There's never really any guarantees.
Bill?
Yeah, one last thing, for me, for the board's sake, could you talk about how we would pay this, how we'd fund it, how we'd be billed for it? Is it incremental? Is it upon certain deliverables? Are we putting it all up front?
No, it's incremental. It's a time and material contract. We bill on a monthly basis. And, you know, the invoice goes in with a backup to what we did. It lists everyone who worked on the job, the rate multiplier. If there's an ODC, which means an expense like, you know, we're paying a sub, the drillers and stuff like, their invoices are attached. Everything is documented. We only charge what we incur.
Related to that, and in the big picture, I feel this is something we all need to figure out how to get done. It's just too important for the county. It's an opportunity. It's a resource that we really have to examine and figure out what is there. In the interest of trying to move the needle a little bit and start the project, and a little bit related to your question, Bill, could we agree to the first step that gets us through the reservoir feasibility, if that's going to be part of the project or not, just to get this moving? It's pretty clear we're not going to come to terms tonight on the overall project, but being time is urgent to get it moving. Is it going to cost $50,000, $100,000 to do those first few steps that nothing else can happen anyway until they're done? And then the risk, at least at this moment, is less, but we're moving. That's probably Jacob.
So you basically want to say, hey, CDM Smith, do the first $250,000 on it in the next couple months, and we'll come back to you if we can make the rest work, is what you're saying?
Yeah, and we'll have time to explore some other things. Everybody will have a better understanding. It has been, and I'll take some of the blame for not getting it on the agenda sooner. But there's been a lot going on in the last year. And
Mr. Chair, I don't mean to interrupt, but instead of going through that whole process, look, we have a proposal on the table. I'm not quite sure which one it is, either $714,000 or $1 million. Whatever that proposal is, whichever one, why don't we simply take a vote and we've got 100,000 here and 100,000 there. Can we do the $714,000 with the reservoir out as the last proposal we received and vote on that?
Well, we don't want to shut down the reservoir.
Well, you can fund it.
What's that?
I said you fund it. Would that
So,
be ideal?
you're saying 714.
Same funded that
With
IDA
us
participation
being
reservoir,
514.
Yes,
250,000.
100 coming from the county, 100 coming from the city, and we do the 500, the difference between the two.
With the opportunity for them to come back if the reservoir is viable and they need additional
I
support?
think that's enough. We could talk about that in the future, but if the whole deal is your point, is get this moving, then we know that this is what this is what we're prepared to do. At $500,000, I think we're a pretty good partner.
Great.
But again, to me, that's a pretty good partner. But if he's saying he needs the money for the rest of it, I mean, again, I know it's timing. I mean, all these developments, wherever, it's timing about getting this project completed. But
I think, Dean, right now, figuring out that last part isn't going to slow down anything to start with.
They're gonna go test for wells. That's what they're gonna go test for the water and see what's underground.
Well, we're gonna start with meetings with the DEC. We're gonna do our papers research and then go meet with the DEC and tell them this is what we have, this is what we want to do. And is that something that you will approve? And is there any law or regulations against it, building a reservoir? Because really, this is the big thing for us, is building the reservoir, because that's gonna have much higher safe yield, for water, for development.
I guess my question is, it sounds like you guys have made the sale. Why are you, so I, like, I'm trying to figure out here why a commitment of $500,000 plus the other 200,000 is 700,000, why, we're saying, isn't that enough to start? Isn't that enough to get
Well,
going?
I think that's what I put on the table was, for discussion at least, now that I can put anything on the table, was that approve the $1 million, subject to the initial phase, which Jacob and I, if the DEC comes back and says, this is a viable project to do a reservoir, and the engineers say that's a viable project to do the reservoir, at least we're in place and we can move forward again. But what you're saying to me now is if you do the 714,000, we're never going to know whether the reservoir was a viable project because we're not looking at it. At least we have to look at it preliminarily.
But I thought you said you were gonna look at it and they were gonna tell you pretty early on whether or not you could do it.
No, we're not asking them to do that, right?
We're gonna tell them,
We're going to 500,000 contribution.
Yeah, I think you guys are trying to get to yes.
Yes.
Let's get to yes.
Let's get to yes.
Okay, let's get to yes.
What I would suggest, to your point there, you can, up to $500,000 right now with the contribution from the county, from the town, okay, without prejudice to both the town and the county coming back and asking for additional funding, should it be required at this point? There's no, and because to your point, there, yes, there is a risk, but there is also the flip side of that coin where if this does come to fruition, so let's say they do this study, and there's a feasibility that they can actually get this water, that they can have a district. There's a provision in the municipal law, general municipal law, to get that money reimbursed. Now, we understand it's way off, we understand that they can do a study, and by the way, they may get nothing there, and then, we've basically spent that money to study, that's it. However, again, there's the other side of that is, if it does come to fruition, you can entertain a motion to expend up to $500,000, or what is it, 514, I guess at this point?
Yes.
514, with the understanding that this is a contribution on behalf of the IDA for this study. You're gonna amend the CDM proposal to add the IDA, the county, and the town as signatories to this. Understanding that it's a contribution on behalf of the IDA, with the contribution from the county and from Middletown for 100,000 each, without prejudice, and that's how you start, and then see where they go at that point. And if they think that a reservoir is feasible, again, there's no prejudice to come back and ask if that's something that can be done later.
Let's just be subject to CPS?
Yeah, it's also, it will be subject to obviously an agreement among the parties.
Which would talk about the payback and the timing.
It's not gonna do the field work for
So what I would entertain would be a motion to, again, up to $514,000 contribution from the IDA, with the understanding that this would be a contribution payable and, back if it should yield some type of water and a district ultimately that would pay us back when and if this ever gets done. And again, there's the Golden's point, that would be subject to an agreement that council will review and be presented for your board, but that's the initial motion. Okay.
Susan?
I just had a question, and that would be for the mayor and the county executive. So was this project put out to bid, or how did you come up with this firm to hire?
Jacob's best to address
Yeah,
that.
this is professional services under New York State law. We can hire the CDM Smith because they have a great experience in our reservoirs, our safe yield analysis and all that. We don't have to go for.
So you didn't look to see if anybody else could do this more economically?
No, because it's knowledge and experience and deliverables. No, it's not like.
You have a history with CDM Smith.
Yes, and they are familiar.
So Susan, they came to me, they're not my engineer, they're their engineer, and their selling point is what they're selling to you, is that they do their work now on their reservoir system. So that's where they came from.
Yeah. They have a tremendous experience for anybody to come and understand all the background about our safe yield analysis is going to cost much more, we believe.
My municipality is looking to develop wells right now, so I'm very familiar with what's going through the process.
So, would anyone care to make a motion on the 514,000?
514,215.
Say that again, Vanessa?
Sorry, go ahead.
It's,
What did it go to the 750?
the total number, which was my understanding of where we're starting from tonight, was 714,215. Is that $714,215? And if we do 100 and 100, that gets us down to 514,000 $215.
I can make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
And I'll second it.
Nice, thank you, Mark. Other discussion?
I would like to see that motion amended, that it is distributed in incremental amounts based on invoices submitted. So in other words, we can guarantee it, but we're only gonna pay as the invoices come out, rather than just turning it over in a lump sum.
What do you think?
I mean, they already stated that it's gonna be incremental as the work is done, so you're gonna get invoiced that way. You're not gonna be paying as a lump sum 514.
Well, but I just want that
Yep.
recorded that way.
And then the last thing, I know you said, should they determine that the reservoir is viable, they can come back and ask, but we're no obligation. We're not making an obligation here
Correct,
today.
you're just running on the 514 and that's it, up to 514 at this point.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second.
Do you wanna, I'm sorry, so you're not gonna change that motion, right?
The amendment that I put in?
Yeah, it's on record, so we'll take that as part of the motion, because they.
Linda doesn't have to say so moved again, or? Okay.
It's okay.
Thanks for asking. Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
I need to get you, I think probably a roll call. vote.
Okay, start with Mark.
Mark Green,
Yes.
Linda Muller,
Yes.
Susan Walski,
Yes.
Dean Tamburri.
Yes.
Dr. Vincent Odock.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Jacob Christ. 7 ayes, 6 ayes.
Very good. That's a
Thank
start,
you all.
Thank you.
gentlemen. Get it going.
Good
Gotta
discussion.
get him to
Yeah.
smile. I'll see you, thank you.
We'll just work on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night, gentlemen.
Thanks for your patience. I know we tested.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you all.
Nice to meet you.
Be a good project. We're gonna let you go swim. Perfect.
He lives close by.
Right?
Sir, I'm less concerned about the water, I'm more concerned about the system.
Good to see you.
Rick, take it easy. Good to see you.
Thanks, Kate. Absolutely. Michael, thanks for coming. Thank you, Joe.
That's just a water bottle.
Go ahead.
That's a long one.
As it should be, though. It's a good discussion.
Yes. Where the heck are we?
Yeah, do you want to?
Mr. Chairman, let's make this like a bunny, nice and quick. 4:30's coming quick for me,
Do you want us
okay?
to finish the business or go back to the top?
It's the chairman's call.
I think I'd go back to,
Chairman's report.
I completed the chairman's report. Bill, CEO.
Yep, see your report, so you have my report in your packet, but I'll just highlight a couple of things. First on the grants, we won yesterday, it was announced that we
Yep.
won another $500,000 grant. This is for the Roaston Power Plant site that really has potential for a clean energy project. This funding will allow us to go through the entitlement, so the approval process to get us closer to viability on that site for new uses. That's great. We also had won one previously for $500,000 for the Aidenbrook site. We are just waiting for a zoning change there, which is imminent. It's on the calendar for March 5th. So we're hoping to really get rolling with that project. And our EPA Brownfields Assessment Project, that's really kicked off. We actually issued 2 RFPs. First of all, for the major component, a qualified environmental professional that will conduct most of this analysis, and then for a project coordinator for this. We put questions, responses to questions we've received out on our website for this, and we're accepting proposals up until February 28th. So I'll have more to share with you after that. On the OCFC side, I will share our COVID-19 Resiliency Loan Fund. We have much of it paid back, but there's still a remainder. We've now hired Collections Bureau of the Hudson Valley to perform some collections. We've already received some revenue from that. So we just don't want to let everyone go, since we've had borrowers, who have repaid their loans. Jeff mentioned the conference, so I won't touch on that. There is a public hearing for the application we looked at last month, SWF Development, which is Sky Harbor for the hangars at Stewart Airport. Our public hearing for that is on February 27th at noon at the town of Goshen.
Next week.
That's right, at the town of Newburgh Town Hall. And the last 2 things, it is required that all board members, like staff, have to take part in a sexual harassment training every year. I know you did that for your other affiliation, so you're done. Thank you, Sue, for completing it yourself. It's available online through our HR services company, so it's for you
If we've
to,
done it for another organization, does that count?
in the last year,
Yes, like
Yes.
the last
Yeah,
month.
that's what I would.
provide us some certification of that.
I will get that for you.
wanna take it again? Anyone, when you're ready to do it, I'll provide the support so
Once
you can
was
get
enough,
online
thank
with
you very
those.
much.
I take them every week, I love them.
I think it's the same for all organization, right? Sexual harassment.
I believe so.
Yes, yes.
Because we did one in the college.
Yeah, you're done.
Just provide us some certificate for that, so. And last thing is IT, we did hire a new IT company, they're looking at all our, basically our security profile, what the risks are, which is helpful. One of the things I identified is there is an opportunity for hacking into your email accounts, and the company did suggest that everyone change their email addresses consistently. It probably hasn't been done for a while, and you have the support for that. I know it's not email you use every day, so when you're ready to do it, please contact myself. I'll put you in touch with the IT professional for any help you need with that. But we do recommend you change your email passwords so we can just stay on top of that. That's really what's most pressing for me.
Questions for Bill? Finance Committee, Mark, please. That's good, thank you.
Just just a few things. Because of the UTEP, we had a slight additional charge because of the public hearing of $325. We also, the $5,000 for the blueprint that was mentioned before, hit the budget. Really, other than that, all the other expenses were in line. I do want to say that we did get a CD, and I guess it's good that I'm saying this now that they're out of earshot, of $264,000.
We're halfway
That's
there.
all right, they're not watching, they're in their cars. So we did get a payment of $264,000 in interest from our CDs. As with the OCFC, we will be meeting again before our CD comes due in March, so we will discuss options at that point. And that really is all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Mark. Questions? Moving on to Linda, governance, please.
Basically on governance, we're looking at the policies, the P&Ps and the HR policies, and with the help of our attorneys, we will have something back before the board for approval. We won't even be reviewing things anymore, we're just gonna approve it.
Excellent. And then we move on to, is it accept January financials? Because we did the UTEP.
Yes, we're back down to the
Yep.
third item on the new business.
Mark Green again. Financials and payables, please. This is under new business. The
board-
recommendation to the board, and we need
Board
to just,
still needs to approve them, so if you just wanna recap your recommendations from the finance committee and to accept the financials.
Yeah, boy, I vapor locked right now.
You do this every month, but you just tell the board that the committee voted to approve.
Yes, the committee voted to approve all of our expenses. And we
The committee recommended the board approve.
I'm still in fight mode. I mean,
That's what I see.
I apologize.
and we have those financials and payables in our board packet as well,
Correct.
with the recommendation. Would
So you
any-
need a motion?
Yes.
I make the motion.
A motion by Linda, a second by Susan, to accept the January 2025 financials as well as the January, February payables. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We need to authorize the invoice payments.
Yes, this is kind of renewing a previous authorization I had last April to pay bills at the time up to $7,500. That's to allow us to pay everything off. And then the board again scrutinizes it right after the fact. We did this in OCFC, right? So you know what it's about.
Yeah.
We're looking at the amount of $9,000.
Correct,
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
Motion to authorize those invoice payments up to the level of 9,000. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Dean, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. To appoint these attorneys, Lino?
Yes.
Sure, so the next item, I'll make it quick, Brad Schwartz, Zan and Steinmetz is being appointed as conflict counsel. So this is a project, this is GTI Warwick, so there are parties in that transaction that will be before you that I used to represent at one time, one in particular, a utility company. So they're involved in that project with respect to an easement that has to be modified. So Brad is simply coming in to just review that aspect of that application. As far as the initial work that has to be done, it's very brief, he has to review the easement, but probably next year in 2026, when that project comes before your board, there'll probably be a little bit more to do. But again, because I'm involved in the utility company on the other side of that transaction, you need to bring in conflict counsel for that particular matter. And that's why Brad's, and he's doing it at the same rate that we do it. He understands it, and he's done this work before, and again, that's all that's being asked for tonight, is to approve his engagement letter.
Questions? Motion to approve that engagement with Brad?
Yeah, the
By
firm
Mark.
is Aaron Steinmetz, Brad Schwartz is the part of that firm.
Thank you. And a second to that motion? Mark made the motion, second by Doc Odoc. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Moving on, as we close in on our, maybe our last agenda item here. Bill just passed out the 2025 IDA goals, and these are the result of discussion at this board, as well as individual calls, particularly between board members and Bill. I spoke with a number of you earlier in January as well. We tried to incorporate all those thoughts into a fairly concise package on one page. I would ask for any thoughts on these. Do we need formal motion on these, or we could do it next month, or?
These are for your goals?
For our goals that I'll be measured by to agree.
Not really, it's not a motion, it's just, you're just announcing what they are.
And I think they could even evolve some during the year, but we wanted a thought process, and I think all board members were in agreement with that. And they were only finalized, at least for the board consideration, this afternoon. So.
Mr. Chair, just a friendly reminder, it's a roadmap. That's all
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, good point. So if anybody has comments on those now, we're going ahead, but we'll use this as our roadmap. We good?
And there's one last one on the other page, on the last page, but it's really, I covered it on the harassment
Yeah,
training.
that's what I thought.
And I just thank you all for bringing back your ethics forms, conflict of interest and such. I think we have just about all of them now, so thank you.
Anything else for tonight's IDA meeting? Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
By Susan, second by Mark. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you all for being here and having a good fight tonight.
The owner ain't cutting it tonight.
Oh, Moses.